Today, we're talking about from anxiety to action, a parent's guide to navigating AI, social media, and the digital future. The goal is to help you move from being part of the anxious generation into somebody who knows what to do for your children, how to help them to thrive in the future. I come to this not only as a practitioner of digital wellness with a background in positive psychology, but I'm also the product of public school educators, a professor of neuroscience. My husband, my brother, and my sister-in-law are all in the field of positive psychology, and I'm a parent. So I'm with you. I have three beautiful teenage girls who are in the midst of a lot of what many of you are struggling with right now. So I'm coming to you very authentically and honestly as somebody who is working through this myself. As we all know, our worlds are incredibly complicated. I study digital well-being. I also happen to be a tech developer, so I feel the tension of trying to develop products that are for our digital world while also maintaining digital well-being and wellness for ourselves. My husband on the far right there is an adolescent medicine specialist, but he's also a gamer himself. And then my three children. Most people assume that as a digital wellness expert that I have held off on giving my children phones for years, but the truth is that all three of my children have heard me talk about digital wellness ad nauseum at this point, and all three of them are now content creators. My daughter in orange is a filmmaker, my daughter in red is an app designer, and the little one in pink has two YouTube channels that have thousands of followers and an Etsy store. I introduce my family to you so that you can see the duality that we face in thriving in the digital era. 70% of teens now own their phone by the age of 13. 50% of teens report that they are online almost constantly, often on multiple devices. 8 hours, 39 minutes is the average amount of time that teens are spending on their screens. We have a growing list of concerns that come alongside of that. These are all the things that we as parents feel on our shoulders. Today's talk is all about helping you reframe that anxiety, which is real, into action. So enough doom and gloom, enough anxiety. Where I really want to go today is to give you the three pillars of raising digitally wise kids. So the first one is that we as parents need to teach digital literacy, not just screen time limits. One of the things that we talk about often at the Digital Wellness Institute is this propensity for us to swing between polar opposites. We know what's actually working and more realistic for sustainable behavior is creating the spot called digital flourishing. And I define digital flourishing as that sweet spot where you are in control of your technology, not the other way around. Here's what you need to know overall about digital literacy in your kids. First of all, there's a myth of digital parenting, of perfect digital parenting. I don't have it right. None of us actually get it right. We're all learning in this space. So the research is coming out as fast as it can, and we're trying to share it as fast as we can, but there's a lot of gray areas for all of us. Second, all screen time is not the same. One of the things that I've learned from my pediatric friends is that today's best measure of screen time is what you're doing when you are online and what you're doing offline. Are you sleeping at night? Are you eating well? Are you getting your homework done? Are you consuming more than you create or creating more than you consume? Are you getting out to hang out with your friends? And all of these factors give us a picture of whether or not our kids are actually using the amount of screen time properly. The second pillar for raising digital thriving young people, building pathways and boundaries simultaneously. In the language of digital wellness and well-being, most of the focus you have always heard about is on boundaries. We need guardrails, and absolutely we do. But the emerging conversation is now focusing on what we call pathways to privilege. Our young people want to know that when they can get a phone or a device, or when they can get social media, or when they can earn more game time. And what they often hear from parents is, no, end of discussion. And what we're finding to be a very effective strategy for parents is to begin to say, hey, I know you want that phone, so here's how you can prove to me that you can handle the responsibility. We'll do X, Y, and Z. Maybe it's building up chores. Maybe it's having a series of conversations. Maybe it's seeing that you can walk the dog and feed the dog on a regular basis before you take on a new responsibility. But this pathways to privilege is a really important concept for the young people. The third pillar of raising digitally well children in this digital age is modeling. The hard truth about this parental screen time use is that they often will repeat back the very things that we are doing and saying. 77% of parents think their kids are overly dependent on devices, but 40% of kids think their parents are too dependent on devices. So if we're making rules for our kids that we can't stick with ourselves, it might be worth revisiting why that is. A couple opportunities for teachable moments encourage your young person to have pro-social fun time on their devices, but also acknowledge other responsibilities, grades, sleep, chores, family time. We know sleep is absolutely critical to their performance in school. Second is to point out poor behavior when you see others doing it. I remember my mother doing this as I was growing up. Every time she saw some child misbehaving in public, she would be like, Amy, I want you to notice this because this is not good. You would notice it in somebody else's child. So this gives you a teachable moment as a parent. You're out in public, maybe you're at dinner, maybe you're on vacation together, and say, wow, that family, they're all together, but they're not spending time together. That's not who we want to be. This is how we want to act. It's a great reframe. Third is explaining what you're doing when you're on your devices and modeling good choices. One of the things that was so shocking to me as a parent was the summer that I took my kids to the library. We were going to did a library challenge about how many books we could read for the summer, and the kids were filling out at the end of summer all the books that they read. And then I asked, I read a lot of books this summer. Can I write down the books I read and get a free bookmark? And they said, sure. So I started writing down my books, and I love to read. I'd read 33 books that summer. It was my all-time record. I was so proud. And then my children said, Mom, when were you reading? You're always on your device. And I thought, what do you think I'm doing on my device? I'm reading. They thought I was playing Roblox or Fortnite or whatever TikTok video that they would be watching. They assumed that's what I would do. So now when I have my device out, particularly in family time, I say, wow, this thing is going on in the world, or, oh my gosh, I saw this funny video. Do you want to come join me and watch it with me? Then they know what I'm doing and I pull them into the conversation so it's not just solo behavior. And lastly, owning your bad parenting moments and being willing to shift behavior. Let me be honest and real with you. There's no perfect parent. I have my own flaws and faux pas with digital devices. My kids are so happy to call me out on this. But one of the things I can do to, again, build that social capital is to own these moments and say, you know what? You're right. I'll be better and keep working on it. This is a bonus strategy for you. I said there were three pillars to becoming or to raising digitally well kids, but this fourth one I couldn't help but put in, and that is to think forward a little bit as a parent about raising what I call a super thinker. I'm in the throes of writing this new book right now called Super Thinker about the skills that we need to thrive in the age of AI. The things that I'm learning in the process of writing is that there are so many unique skills that we as humans have that we know AI can't replace. And so part of what I want to do with my own children is I want to develop those skills that are their value add in the future, knowing that AI might be better at them in computation. So I want to stop there. I want to say thank you so much for showing up, for caring, for taking the time to want to be there for your young person and help them to thrive in this digital world. Our goal as parents is really to create these caring, compassionate, insightful digital citizens. And whether our kids like it or not, we know that they need us. So thank you for being invested in their digital future.
Amy, outstanding. We so need to hear that all screen time is not the same. All kids are not the same. I love what you said about coming into their world, knowing the lingo, have them teach you. And we always hear, as you well know, the relationship is everything. Whether you're interested or not, let's look like we are. Let's ask those questions. Amy, you wrote an amazing book, The Future of Happiness. What if you were to write that book today, and you're working on another one, which sounds very important. I can't wait for that one. What would you change in that book that, in terms of where we are today in the world?
There's a few things I would change. One of the things I would write more about AI. At the time I wrote the book, it came out in 2017. AI was just a blip. So I didn't see far enough in the future to forecast what was happening there. I also mentioned a lot of tech and app devices. It was the Internet of Things and sensors and Fitbit watches when the book came out. So there was a timestamp there. What I would have done differently is to reframe around timeless principles that we see again and again. And one of the things that has really come up for me recently in my research on AI is that we as society go through tech panic cycles almost predictably every
Mm,
15 years. Our last
mm,
one was the smartphone, and strangely enough, then came AI about 15 years later. And after AI will come the next thing. And so, if we have been through this over and over again, I would reinforce that we as humans have a propensity to feel afraid as opposed to get out in front and figure out a path to get ahead of whatever that technology might be. So, being more proactive and less reactive, and also recognizing that fear is part of the process. It's innovation, it's creative destruction, it throws us into uncertainty, and we can learn how to sit in that uncertainty and learn with it as opposed to being afraid of it. So that would be the thrust. And it is part of why I'm writing Super Thinkers, is because I want us to get even further ahead in thinking about, okay, what are we going to do? How are we going to
mm.
react to this?